Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm CJ.
And I'm Chip.
And my butt is a little fried, it seems. I got singed yesterday. So the first thing I'm going to address is what many of you may have seen or heard at last night's City Council meeting. If you were listening to my report at the City Council meeting yesterday, I turned around and I clearly stated names that were listed on the Munis report. Those names were not called out because of any particular reason, and no one was called out by name in the sense of trying to make accusations. But somebody whose name was similar to one of the names read off decided to come to the City Hall yesterday and was very loud and belligerent and proceeded to call me a liar and many vulgar words. And I told this individual that she can go inside and take some public input time and state that she is not the person, or she is the person, or whatever the case may be. Instead, she went to City Councilor Joe Camara and kind of put a bug in his ear. And so City Council President Joe Camara decided to call me out on the floor, which, by the way, is wrong. I called out the name of Pat Casey because we knew it was Pat Casey off the Munis report, and she explained it, which should have happened. And Joe Camara, instead of calling me out on the floor and trying to, create a situation where my integrity was questioned, he called me out on the floor doing things that the City Council and many members do all the time. The individual that was involved should have taken the stand herself and made a statement. So what I did was, last night, I dictated from the City Council chamber and generated a letter to the members of the City Council. Honored City Councilors, on May 13, 2014, I took the stand during citizen input time. During that input time, I referenced the attached Munis report and specified two names, those being Patricia Casey and the other being Natalie R. Mello, M-E-L-L-O. I understand that Natalie Mello, M-E-L-O, was upset that what she had heard was her name. She approached City Council President Joe Camara to clear her name or defend her as not being the individual named in the Munis report. While I appreciate what Mrs. Mello would feel and would want to clarify, Mrs. Mello did not directly hear the statements from the meeting, but was by her statements from people listening or watching on TV. At no time did I refer to the Natalie R. Mello in the Munis report other than as Natalie R. Mello. I never referred to her as president of a neighborhood association, nor as a resident of O'Grady Street. I referred to the named individual as people who are connected to the mayor, the administration, or the City Council. I believe the actions of City Council President was inappropriate and out of order, and that he should have directed Mrs. Mello to address the council in person, as I had advised her to do. She stated, "You will do it, not me." I'm sorry that Mrs. Mello felt as though I was directing an attack at her, but when she assumed, without hearing what was stated, it is not my issue, nor that of the City Council. The Munis report does not provide addresses, and again, I never stated a specific Natalie R. Mello. I wish to formally apologize for any disruption or confusion that my testimony may have caused, but again, I was only stating the specifics from the Munis report and not conducting a personal attack. I thank you for your time and consideration. I remain respectfully CJ Ferry. To further that, I decided to do a little research, which we always do around here. City Ordinance Section 254, regular meetings of the City Council shall be held on the second and fourth Tuesday evenings of each month at 8 p.m. Unless otherwise directed, every adjourned sitting of the City Council, not an adjourned specific meeting, shall constitute a regular meeting, and the order of business there shall be the same as in the case of a regular meeting. And this is under the revised ordinances of 1988. Now, how many people out there actually see our City Council meeting happening at 8 p.m.? So the City Council President, who has control of calling this meeting to order, has violated city ordinance. And further, under Section 258, the calling of a meeting to order and restrictions of statements by the President. Under 258A, the President of the City Council shall take the chair at the hour of meeting and shall call the members to order. If a quorum is present, business shall proceed. And the meeting is supposed to start at 8 p.m. City Council President Camara, you failed. You're violating the law in two instances. Now, under Section B, the President may express his opinion on any subject under debate, But in such cases, he shall leave the chair and appoint some other member to take it. The president may state facts and give his opinion upon questions of order without leaving his place. In other words, City Council President Camara, if you have an opinion, leave the podium. Otherwise, keep your mouth shut. That's the law. And because of that, I decided, well, time to make it a complaint. So an official complaint was filed with the Massachusetts Attorney General this morning, May 14th, and it was filed citing those ordinances and requesting that they issue appropriate censure and action by the Massachusetts Attorney General or any other legal enforcement entity. Copies of this letter went obviously to the Massachusetts Attorney General, the Fall River City Clerk, Fall River Corporate Counsel, and City Council President Joe Camara. I do this in clarity of our reporting. We do not make statements which are false. We do not make statements which are in any way, shape, or form an attack. We report the facts as we receive them. The Munis report is the same facts that are presented to the City Council, and now none of them can plead ignorance because they each got a copy of the letter in regards to President Camara's actions with a copy of the Munis report. So they all know exactly what is on that Munis report. And it's a shame that we have to do that. And it's a shame that I have to take 8 minutes to clear up a misaction by member or members of the City Council and of city residents who make assumptions. And as we all know, when you assume, you make an ass out of me and you. Well, with that...
You're turning it over for a minute.
Well,
right?
for a minute.
I'm going to begin. You're out of order, Mr. President. Yes, you're right. President Camara who is no relation, by the way, was out of order. I was the chair for 24 years of the union. I'm well aware of parliamentary procedure. If I wanted to voice an opinion, I had to, the term is pass the gavel and take the floor to express a personal opinion. It is the job of a chairman to run the meeting and run it efficiently and in accordance with the parliamentary procedures. Of course, the City Council is a how not to run a meeting exhibition every single time. It's unfortunate, but apparently nobody knows any parliamentary procedure. They debate non-debatable motions. They discuss motions that have been tabled, which are non-debatable. It's politics again. But you're right. But that report, I believe that there was the issue that my co-host CJ was trying to point out was the fact that report revealed the possibility that certain people in this city were getting preferential treatment in their pothole claims, especially in light of the fact that it's routine for the city to send a letter telling anybody who gets their car destroyed that it's not their fault, they're not liable. Well, last time I checked, the city was kind of liable to maintain their own streets, but I guess that's a matter of opinion. But I guess all our lawyers from the Crayola School have determined it's not their responsibility unless you are part of the A team, and that is the large A. So, but I believe CJ said. Mention those two names because number one, obviously, Pat Casey is a city councilor, and actually her explanation basically was, forgive me, I just committed insurance fraud, but that's the way it is, and I didn't run it through the council. I didn't follow procedures everybody else had. Well, that was the point, I believe, of the presentation.
That's exactly what it was.
And I said also the fact is that there are many, many names on that list that I could go over now who nobody recognizes. But we have our sources. I received calls on many of those names that this is the daughter of the guy who got this from the mayor or gave the mayor this or got this bid from the mayor or this is the cousin of so-and-so. But the problem is if we mention Pat Casey's name, most people will know. It'll get up their radar. If we mention a name that nobody has any idea for, and we have to trace their their lineage, it's not as effective. And there was a point, and as CJ said, I was sitting there because I was presenting next on another issue. There was never a mention of, obviously, Mrs. Mello was that Mrs. Mello. And if she had an issue with that and felt that, there was an implied, there was some kind of implication, she could have exercised her right to walk up there and say, I want to make it clear I did not receive any money. I am not the Natalie Mello that was referenced in that report. CJ just read a name, and I think the biggest culprit here is, and I understand why she would be upset, because obviously she felt that she was singled out, even though she wasn't. But there are other people in the world named Robert Camara too. So every time somebody says Robert Camara, if they accuse me of doing something, I tell them it's not me. I had a company call me once for that I was in arrears for a loan for an SUV that I had no idea what they were talking about. I didn't have one. It wasn't me, and I just said, look, it's not me, and that's the way it is. But I think the biggest issue we have here is the way the president ran the meeting. I think it is not proper. He jumped to the defense of this woman because he has a personal interest. And the fact is, this happens quite often in the city council. And I understand if somebody's your friend and you feel that they've been attacked. But when you're in that chair, you have a job to do, and that's to treat everybody equally. Everybody has the same rights, and you're there to run the meeting efficiently. That's why the ordinance says, which follows parliamentary procedure under Roberts or Atwood's or Cushing's or anybody. Anybody's rules of order basically say that the chair, unfortunately, it is fortunate that when you're the chair, you're the chair. You don't have a right to your opinion. You're there to run the meeting. And if you want to give your opinion, you have to give up your chair to someone who will then make sure that the decorum of the meeting and the integrity of the meeting is kept. And I think that was very, very wrong. And again, we have to look at government objectively. We have to report the facts and the truth. And I think that what went on after that meeting with the finances of the city proved that we have some serious issues above and beyond whether somebody was upset because they thought their name was mentioned.
Yeah, the thing is also, Bob, and we know this, we're public figures. You and I are public figures because we have this show, and we're constantly in the out front of the issues that the city's facing. Many of our neighborhood presidents and association leaders are also public figures because they're always in the forefront of issues regarding their neighborhoods. And our city council, our mayor, our school committee are also public figures. Therefore, a different rule applies to us than applies to John Smith in the general public. And we have to be willing to accept that fact, that not everyone's going to agree to us, and a lot of people are going to say it. So the way I took yesterday's thing was what Miss Mello said to me outside the city council chamber and in the atrium. That's fine. People say what they want to say. I don't have a problem. But what happened in that chamber, like you said, was not appropriate. And I think we needed to issue that. But we got some vindication yesterday. And I was there to witness that.
Yes. Wasn't it amazing that they finally admitted there's no money in the health care fund on the city side?
Amazing, isn't it?
Amazing. What we've been saying for how long, and follow the money. Now, if you didn't watch the show, the rerun of the city council meeting, I will tell you now that I told the city council that I had reported this not only to the United States Attorney General, the state Attorney General, but also the FBI, the Division of Political Fraud. I said, if we can't account for the money, maybe the FBI can. And lo and behold, they went up there and they said, well, there's $4 million in the employee trust fund, which I think was a misrepresentation because I don't think this month's money has been deposited yet that they take out of the paychecks of the retirees and the employees, which is a standard practice. They delay. I think it's more like the $6 million that we've said, and close to $6 million, because if it's down to $4 million, it means that we had $8 million worth of bills last month, which is an impossibility since we have stop-loss insurance. But the big thing was the city said they had like $134,000 $134,000 in their account. Well, I hate to tell you this, city and city finance team and Mr. Mayor, you have a fiduciary responsibility to have 3 times what we have. So even if we did have 4, you should have $12 million in that fund.
And the funny part about that was even those numbers changed. And none of those numbers were current. Those numbers were as of June 30th, 2013. We're coming up to June 30th, 2014 right now. So the figures they were quoting were a year old. And then they changed. They said 4.1 million. Then they said, oh, well, $15,000 has been paid out of that money. So it's 4.085.
Well, I mean, obviously, if it's June 30th of last year, it's what's left at the end of the fiscal year, which is totally irrelevant. But this is, just goes to show the complete inaccuracy of everything that is told to us about our finances. I mean, it is just incredible that this city can even pay a bill, even though we pay our health care bills, even though we're running 10% under budget. They admitted that they paid the health care bills 2 months in arrears.
Yes, they did.
There's a rumor that's being checked out as we speak that we're paying so late on the newest ladder truck for the fire department that there was a notice of repossession sent. And I can attest to this because it is not the first time things like this have happened in this city. I experienced the same thing when I was on a job. They were paying so late and not paying at all that many vendors would not deal with the city. And again, we can't get a straight answer, but the bottom line here is every collective bargaining agreement in the city of Fall River has a health care provision in it. And in those provisions, they all basically read that the city will pay 75% and the employees will pay 25% of the health care costs. Now, that creates a fiduciary responsibility, just like their salaries. When these people sign and you give them a pay raise, you have to fund that pay raise. And as a matter of fact, that is binding, because there was a city that attempted to negate all the collective bargaining agreements because they said they were in financial trouble, and they went to court, and the court said, you made this agreement, you have to find the money. We don't care what happens. This is an agreement. There's a fiduciary responsibility here. And that fiduciary responsibility doesn't stop at just their wages. It also includes the health care, which is a provision of the contract. So the city should have, as a minimum with their numbers, which, as he said, it was June 30th. So in reality, we're dealing again with, we have absolutely no idea what the real numbers are. We never will, and maybe only the FBI will know ultimately. But let's use their figures from last night. If there's $4 million in the employee account, there should be $12 million on the city side, but there's $134,000. So the question is, where did the 11 million, 800 and whatever, go? Again.
Well, according to Treasurer Nunes,
Nunes? Okay.
whatever his name is, I want to call him something else, but it is the city's past practice to only fund the employer side of the health accounts to 3 months of bills.
That is an absolute untruth. And as a matter of fact, on our next show, when we tape Friday, I will bring in a newspaper article from 1992 or 91, which Bob Connors is complaining about how much the city has to commit for the annual, not quarterly, the annual healthcare budget on the city side, and how much it was going to debilitate the city at the time. So, number one, it doesn't matter what Mr. Nunes or Nunez or whatever, I don't know. You know what
I know what you mean.
But the fact is that it doesn't matter what he says. The law is the law. He has a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that the money is in place to fund things that the city made agreements about. The fact is they made an agreement to pay for 75%, and they can't just say, well, we're going to do it 3 months at a time, and if we run out of money, what we're going to do is increase everybody's taxes, steal more from the healthcare fund, give the people a crappy healthcare fund, and we're going to get the money and we're going to be rewarded for our inability to do our jobs because we're just going to pick the pockets of everybody else.
Well, to quote to quote City Council Mitchell last night, the City Council has these little birds flying all overhead that are bringing them bits and pieces of information. And they asked Kathy Ann yesterday, do they have to come up with $7 million to pay the incurred and not reported in order to convert over to the GIC plan? And Kathy Ann said, as we have reported here, that the city does have to do that. So a good point was made by City Council Pereira, who said, so the mayor says that he can just move us into GIC without City Council approval. Yes, the law says that. But if the City Council doesn't give him the $7 million loan, he can't go to GIC. Well, yeah. So, Mr. Nunez, whatever your name is, does the city have $7 million that we can use to go into the GIC? Well, it would be tight. It would make cash flow very rough, but yeah, we could do it. So, we have the money, but we have a now $5 million, maybe more, looking at the numbers I have here, shortage, but we have the money. So, that's just telling me that no matter what the mayor gets, he's going to put GIC forward, according to the meeting of last night.
Well, I think that it also raises another question. On one hand, we don't have money. We've only got $134,000, but now he says we can scrape up $7 million, and so now that begs the question, where are they going to get the money? You're going to steal it from some other account? But there's another fact here that's not accurate. When you get a health care plan, when you sign with Blue Cross, they require you to put the money up front for runoff claims. They're not going to be, the reason for that is, let's say at the end of a contract, healthcare contract, be it a 1-year contract or a 3-year contract or whatever, let's say you decide to change carriers. You say, okay, we're ditching Blue Cross. We're going to go to Harvard Pilgrim. Well, Blue Cross is not going to get stuck with what's called incurred but not reported bills or runoffs when you end the term. If you continue with that carrier, they're incurred but not reported, and they come in later on in a new contract year. But if you end your policy, they're runoff claims. They're called runoff claims. What happens is all the bills don't come in within the end of the year. Services that are done in the last month of the year, there may be other reasons, subrogation, but there are reasons that some of the bills that were incurred for, let's say, 2014 don't come in until 2015. Now, they've done, about 85 to 90% of those claims come in within the first 3 months of 2015, but there's some that can go even longer. But they have to be paid. I mean, it's a bill. It's something you owe the healthcare carrier. But because to ensure that they get their money, Blue Cross requires you to have that money before, not after. And my question again was, where did that money go? Because as a member of the Insurance Advisory Committee, I negotiated more than once about the total amount we needed to set aside for incurred but not reported claims and runoff claims. So the big mystery is, again, I know that Blue Cross would not allow us to have a contract with them without a set aside to make sure that we had the money to pay off the runoffs. And I think that, again, we may have people that are so confused that they're mixing apples and oranges. It may not be the runoff claims they're talking about, but if it may be GIC runoff claims or something like that they're looking for. GIC might want the same upfront money. I'm not sure, but the reality and the reason he really wants to go to the GIC is because they allow them to bond, and as the city council said, they still need the city council, but of course he can say, well, we can find the money. But they can always find the money.
I know, it's amazing how they can't find the money. And, just a little side note, did you notice the great engraved $9,000 door in the law department? The city seal engraved in glass. That must have been done real cheap, huh? Because let's be real, corporate counsel have been told, don't spend our money. But we got a beautiful new engraving of the city seal. Isn't that wonderful?
Do they have the new... our new motto, what, me worry?
I know, really, it's getting scary.
It's like Alfred E. Newman.
Exactly. And if some of you noticed, I was looking through these papers here on my desk, besides the ones regarding the city council. This is documents that were provided to me in regards to the school committee funding issues, and I'm going to be reviewing them more further. And I'm going to tell you now, we're going to have some breaking news on Friday about that and where all our money is going. It's amazing that we can't get straight answers from our elected officials. Everything's got to be a back door or a little bluebird flying overhead takes a dump and drops the information. And the scary part about all of it is that it happens every day, every hour of every day. But I want to thank you for watching, because we reached almost 7,000 viewers on Friday's edition of Spindle City Straight Talk. That was our biggest viewership in a long time. So we have to thank you for that, because I'll tell you now, that shows that this show is meaningful to you. So continue to share this show with your friends and let them know, because you're the reason we're here. As I explained to Governor Patrick's office yesterday when they were in Fall River, we're the citizens' journalists. We don't do this for us. We do this for you. And I know Chip loves it, especially when there's a little singeing here and there.
Well, that's the key. The key is that there has to be somebody that tells the truth, especially with what's going on now. I mean, if you allow government to go unchecked, it's, the old adage, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And this is the key. The key is that, look, we report it. If we call them as we see them. And if you like it, that's fine. But we're going to do it. And if they do something right, we'll let you know that too.
That's right.
So keep watching.
Thank you for watching. Have a great day. We'll see you.